Now, there's a reason why I'm doing my videos on Rumble instead of YouTube. Okay? My videos are now going to be response videos to things that Denell is saying, and I'm going to do it without insult, hate, making up stuff. The reason that I do this on Rumble is because I don't care about that channel. And if I start doing my reactions with her side by side, she could strike me for that on YouTube. On Rumble, it's not so easy. If she were to strike me because I'm speaking with her own words, then we have our answer. But I want to respond to this group that she's talking about because it's my group. And I created it years ago. But I want to respond to it, and I'm going to listen to her talk and pause the thing, and listen to her talk and pause the thing. I'm trying to do this quickly. It's only a 10-minute video. Let her talk.
I just walked into work, and wanted to do a quick recap. I was scrolling through my Facebook the other day, and I came across a group that I had not seen before, and it said the real supporters and non-supporters. It was like Darlie Routier, the real supporters and non-supporters. I was like, oh, how have I never seen this group before? So,
okay, let me stop here. The real supporters and supporters is not my group. But the same thing happened in my group. We have a rule that's in place and has been in place for years that the admins can't be blocked. That way the admins get the chance to respond to you if you say something. You just can't come into somebody's house and say, I'm going to talk and you shut up. You can't do that. That's a rule, and it's been a rule for everybody for years. And it's like that in all the groups. You just can't block the admins. It's a reasonable rule. All right? And it's in my group too, but this kind of happened in both of these groups. My group is Darlie Routier, A Case for Concern on Facebook.
So I submit my answers to join the group, and somebody immediately notifies me, girl, you're in the wrong group.
Girl, you're in the wrong group. Because they're not going to buy it. We're not going to buy it. When you use semantics and switch up stuff, we're not going to buy it. We know our shit. So she may have meant, girl, you're in the wrong group with that bullshit. Possibly.
Maybe not those exact words, but I was notified that they were posting in another one of the groups that is definitely a hate group.
You can't say words like definitely a hate group. You can't do that. We don't hate you. We don't hate Darlie. We don't want her to be guilty. It's not a hate group. See, when you're making assumptions already that there's hate. But listen.
Somebody should quickly approve my request before.
Quickly. Okay. As if there's some problem with people being responded to quickly. Because we check our requests quite often. And we approve quite often. Free Darlie is quickly. We'll accept people too. Quickly. That just means we're on top of it and we're watching what's going on and we're answering requests quickly. But she wants to maximize that.
I realize what I've done. Well, now I'm committed. Now I have to see.
Now I'm committed. She's still in my group. Darlie Routier, A Case for Concern. Right? And we had the same issue with her blocking administrator. So I talked to Denell, and she said, well, I've had those people blocked for years. Right? And she didn't want to unblock them, and I understand that. So I started striking up a conversation with Denell, and I was telling her, I wish the group would have been a little more compassionate to you, blah, blah, blah. Well, my group, my friends, got so pissed off at me about even, engaging with her that they got mad at me and booted me from my own group and blocked me from the other ones. All right? Because of some of the things that Denell has said about them and stuff. They didn't want me engaging with her. But I worked that out with my group. Denell's not blocked, and Denell can be in there without blocking the administrators, even though they don't like it. Right? But they agreed. The administrators in my group are blocked. Denell's got them blocked. And she's still permitted to be in the group. She just chooses not to participate at this point in time. I did post that Denell's not willing to unblock them, and that's fine. Right? And I tell the group, we're just going to let her be here. Right? And if the administrator she has blocked has something they want to respond to Denell with, because admins in the group can still see your post if you have them blocked. They just can't respond to you. So I said if the admins have something they need to say, they message me, I put their name on it, and I repost it. My admins are not going to be silenced by anybody. But if she chooses to have them blocked, I can kind of understand that because other places of Facebook are not my group. Right? So she can have them blocked there. That's fine. She's still protected outside of the group. She's even protected in our group because I'm really not going to let somebody go off on her. Even if I might have to make that decision at some point. I don't want them going off on her. But I'm not King Dog Daddy. This is my group, blah, blah, blah. So she's in a group where we have allowed her to keep the admins blocked, except for myself. Right? And she just doesn't respond anymore. So we gave her what she wanted. She doesn't respond. And nobody's been really, a little bit, but nobody's been too terribly rude to her. I haven't, and I'm not going to be.
What this is all about. Come to find out. Okay, so those of you that don't know, there is a hate group.
You can't call us a hate group. All right? When you call us a hate group, you're lying. And you don't like to be told that you're lying. We're not a hate group. And anybody can come in there and speak. You're not going to come in there and speak and just think your shit don't stink, though. That's not going to happen. And I can show you some of the things that she said to some of us non-supporters behind the scenes. And you can see why we get irritated with her.
Is solely dedicated to people that hate Darlie and my family.
We do not hate Darlie or your family. We hate what's being said to make Darlie seem innocent. We don't hate you. I watched you grow up. I know that you're a good mother. You're a professional person. You're really good with your kids. You help Drake so much. We do not hate you. I do not hate you. We hate what comes out of this mouth. We hate that. Because you're spreading misinformation. And we're going to prove it continuously. That doesn't mean we hate you. That means you were brought up to believe this. That's not your fault.
My family's more so because we support Darlie.
No, we don't hate you because you support Darlie. And here's proof. For me, there are some Darlie supporters that I get along with well and can call friends. And we disagree on the case. But there's a couple of them out there that I'm still friendly with. Because they don't insult. We discuss it like adults. We don't refer to them as dumbasses unless they do that to us. She keeps calling us a hate group. I mean, how would you feel if we kept calling your free Darlie groups in your TikTok a Dartard group? Dartard. Did she sprinkle the Darlie dust on you? See, I can do that too, but I'm better at it. We're not a hater. We can insult too. I'm better at it though, Denell.
And have continued to profess her innocence. But they are very angry people.
We're not angry. Until somebody throws a lie out there. And even then, I'm not angry. I'm not angry about it. Because I know that I can defeat that lie easily. And I have with you a couple different times. Like when I asked you why Darlie on Werner Herzog's on death row, why she said, well, the doctor said on the stand that the neck wound actually nicked the carotid artery. Your response to that was, well, she doesn't know medical terminology. I don't know why she wouldn't know the medical terminology in her own case after 27 years of studying it. And she did, and I said, okay, well, okay, I'll chalk that up to maybe she doesn't know the medical terminology. But she started it with, the doctor said on the stand. And she was in the courtroom. And she heard what was said on the stand. And that never was said on the stand. You can't defeat that. Darlie lied.
I guess would be the best term to use. And they feel like we are not giving Devin and Damon justice by fighting for Darlie. Well, what they don't know is that Devin and Damon loved their mother.
How do we not know that Devin and Damon love their mother? She's telling the world that we didn't know that. We thought Devin and Damon hated her. How do we not know that? Andrea Yates loved her kids too. She loved them. She loved her kids to death.
Very much. And Darlie was their world, just like they were her world. And to allow her to be falsely imprisoned for something that she didn't do.
We're not allowing her to be falsely imprisoned for something she didn't do. We allow her to serve out her conviction where she was justly convicted for what she did. That's the difference. I am not going to sit here and see something that makes her look innocent and not talk about it. I've had non-supporters pissed off at me before. Because when I sit on something, my morals, I'm not just going to hate bond with Darlie non-supporters. Like there's a part in the 911 tape where it sounds like Darren is saying, oh my God, did Blake come in here? And it could also sound like, oh my God, when are they going to get here? What I hear is, oh my God, did Blake come in here? That's what I heard. A lot of non-supporters don't hear it that way. But that's the way I heard it, and I listened to it over and over. And there's another point that some of the nons didn't like is about the knives, the cast off on her shoulder. The way that Bevel was showing it was that she was bringing her arm all the way back and then back down. And all the way back and then back down. Then I think it was Labor and Epstein did the same thing, and they got the same result without bringing her arm all the way back and back down. They got the same result, right? Her arm did not have to come all the way back to sling it onto her back, like they said. And some of the supporters non-supporters don't agree with me on that. But they're not going to tear me up just because I don't. Even when they blocked me from a group, they weren't rude to me about it. I mean, can you imagine? I've had that group for years, and my own administrator that I made as administrator fucking blocked me and kicked me out of my own group. No, but I wasn't pissed off at them for that. I'm trying a different approach with Denell. I'm not going to insult her. I'm just not going to do it. I'm not going to have her be able to have her call me a hater or anything like that. I'm not. She's called me mentally unstable, and her mother's called me a fat, greasy slob before, and that's fine. I would go back at them. I'm not doing that today. I'm not going to do that with these. Unless, it has to be very crucial for me to do that again. Because I said years ago that I'm going to stop the way I approach this family.
Break their hearts. And they would be out here fighting for her 100%.
Now, if Devin and Damon were murdered, which they were, and Darlie got convicted for it, which she was, then how can they possibly be out here fighting for her if they've been murdered? Some of these things don't make any sense. I'm not trying to be funny, but you cannot be dead and then stand up and fight for the person that you thought was, you can't, that's just not possible. It doesn't make any sense.
And have been a motivating factor for us this entire time. But they don't know that. They only see what they want to see.
No, you keep saying that we only see what we want to see, but you comment in several different places that you're not going to talk to anybody who doesn't see it your way. You've said that. And my response to you was, well, if you're going to be out here, defending Darlie, then you can't be you can't say, if you don't see it my way, I'm not going to talk to you, because you're not doing any good for nobody. The supporters that you talk to already feel like she's innocent. They're not the ones you need to convince. And if your goal is to convince and put your story out there, when you block and run and call us names and insults, you're doing the same things that supporters have done since you were a child. Insult. Your mother was the worst. Your mother once told somebody she wouldn't feed a Darlie non-supporter a bag of crap. And I'm like, gee, why do you keep bags of crap around? You know, stuff like that.
So anyways, beside the point. These people have made this cult of hate.
It's not a cult. And if you look in all my videos, you can see that there's an article that's written with J. Stephen Cooper in it called The Cult of Darlie. It's in my videos under this one, where J. Stephen Cooper, Darlie's attorney for the last 20-some years, refers to Chris Brown, who wrote Media Tried, Justice Denied, a goofy fuck, where J. Stephen Cooper in that writ actually says that Darlie supporters are actually hurting her case. That's written by her own lawyer under The Cult of Darlie.
Hating Darlie, and they are very vocal in their opinions.
We are very vocal, and so are you. Do you want us to be not vocal?
And they make posts about all of my TikToks.
Yes, because we have the right to rebut what you're saying. It's not done because you're not going to talk to us. But by God, as long as you have these TikToks up, you're going to hear from us. And I'm going to tell you now, you can block my channel. You can report me if you want to for using your content. Right. But I'll save it and I'll make more. And I keep coming back. Tell your mother that. She knows. Blocking me is going to do you no good. I'm here as long as you're here. Blocking me is going to do you no good. This time, as we fight, I'm going to save my videos onto a flash drive. I'm not going to lose important, really well done, and really well thought out videos with really good interviews on it because I didn't save them to a flash drive. That's why my other channel is gone. All right? That channel that was very damning, that I got calls from attorneys that were working on Rodney Reed's case and looking at Darlie's for consultation. That channel was very damning to her. Unfortunately, I did not save it when that channel was deleted. It wasn't removed from YouTube. It was deleted because through Darlie supporters, there was a real big attack on my family, my job, death threats. We moved, and they found us, posted my house deed, what we paid for it, all of it. Called my work, and that came through Darlie support. These are facts, and people know that. We've been harassed, and I don't think it comes from the family. I really don't. Even though they think it's funny when we get harassed that way, I don't think it came from the family. But Darlie supporters have been all over it. I'll show you, once I find the private group about Darlie, that I saved all the documents. I'll find it again. I've got it. I just have to keep looking. Where I posed as a Darlie supporter named Dreama. Boy, they loved her. Even Mama Darlie loved her. Dreama was a really good fake profile. Dreama Krupp. Dreama had her backstory was that she had a very wealthy attorney for a husband, and he passed away. And he had set aside $50,000 to donate to Darlie's cause. But Dreama first wanted to get in there and find out a little bit more about the case before she gave that money up. And boy, they loved her. They loved Dreama. And Dreama collected information about behind-the-scenes secret groups. Yeah. Darlie supporters threatening to call CPS on me. Kathy Ramsey. You did threaten to call CPS on me because I was spending too much time on the internet with this case. Right? These are Darlie supporters. That's what, and I'll prove it. I'll show you the hate.
Hey guys. And they also belittle and ridicule everything that I do or say.
We do not belittle and ridicule everything you say. Some of the things that you say can be valid. Most of it is not. We ridicule it when it's bullshit. I've seen a lot of people express to you that we recognize you as a victim. And we do understand that you were brought up in this. This is instilled into you. All right? So we don't belittle and ridicule everything you do and say.
I will say it again. I've said it before. I do not have every word of that transcript memorized.
But we do. And that's the problem. You don't need to memorize it. We know right where to go. When somebody says something, we know where to go. You don't need to memorize it. You should have it memorized, though. If you're going to come out here and say that someone that was convicted of capital murder is innocent, you should have it memorized. That means if you don't have it memorized, that means you haven't done your research. You don't know where to compare what to what. That's why I did my Darlie channel. People keep asking me the same questions, and I would just put it in video form to have the answer. If you think you can just easily slip onto here without studying transcripts and knowing everything and convince everybody that she's innocent, you're wrong, and you're doing nothing but hurting Darlie's cause if you feel like she's innocent. That's my opinion.
How could I? First of all, it's changed. There was 33,000 errors that have...
The transcript has not changed at all. There's nothing that's not in that transcript written in word form that was not recorded on audio tape that was said in that transcript. Also, the prosecution and the defense both signed off on the construction of that transcript. The defense signed off on it. That means they said it's okay. If there was one error in that, there were 33,000 errors in it. She's absolutely right. She's right. But there were small errors. There was nothing erroneous in it that could have overturned her conviction. Simple words. And I agree, that Sandra Halsey shouldn't have been on that case because beforehand she thought Darlie was guilty. She shouldn't have been there. And I agree that her being called out for it, I agree with that. But you have to remember, the prosecution and the defense signed off on the transcripts. They're legal and binding. There's nothing in the transcripts that have been reconstructed that somebody can look back at and say, that's not what I said. I never said that. There's nobody done that for years. Nobody. The whole time. Nobody. Not one.
Now since been corrected in the Simmons edition. But I do read it. I review any testimony before I talk about it.
No, you don't, because you told me the word superficial was not used in trial. When I found out it was, you changed up the whole meaning of it. You don't.
And what I say is basically my opinion on what I'm reading and seeing. If there's a fact in there, then I'm going to represent it just as it is. I'm not going to twist things or make things look...
Well, represent this. We've been arguing about Dr. Santos's, testimony and how it was different. But after she was stitched up and put over in the ICU just for rest, they wanted to keep people away from her, and she wasn't an ICU patient. Santos would check on her, and he was concerned whether or not she knew that her children were both deceased. And then he found that she already knew that her children were both deceased. And he talked about it a little bit with her, but not much. But he said he's never seen a mother who's lost a child, in his emergency care, where the mother come in and the child had died, have that flat effect as if it didn't bother her. That's real testimony. That's what he said. Now, when Denell figures that out, she's going to attack his character. She's called some of the nurses that treated Darlie insane. Insane nurses. And see, I'm going to back all this up with stuff that she said. Because what you said to people everywhere, messages and stuff like that, is being sent to me. If Mama Darlie is putting you out to bulldog and fight for Darlie like this, well, my group could put me out. And I can do it without biting you or pissing on your leg.
Shady or throw hate at anybody, because 100% fact, I do not hate a single person.
If you keep calling us haters and mentally ill, would you think that you didn't hate me when you called me mentally ill?
That was responsible for convicting Darlie. I can't say the same for everybody in my family. I know there's some very bitter people in my family because of this has happened. But me personally, I forgave everybody the day after it happened. Maybe not Greg Davis initially, but I...
Why would you not forgive Greg Davis for doing his job? He didn't pick Darlie out of the blue. She came to him.
Did forgive him. And James Cron, I forgave him too. I realize that these people are real life people that have real families.
Yeah, I have real family. I'm not mentally ill.
That have real relationships and are not necessarily bad people just because they got pulled into this trial and maybe were manipulated.
Manipulated. Let's use the word. She says that she actually posts that all of these people were under Greg Davis's spell. She tells us how ridiculous we are, but she wants to convince people that a district attorney can cast a spell on people and make them think the way he does. And not just the people in the trial. To this day, there are people that stand for her conviction that are in law enforcement and in the medical field. I guess they're still under his spell after he's retired. She says we're ridiculous, but wants us to believe that Greg Davis is so powerful he can cast a spell on thousands of people that would last for years after his retirement. But we're ridiculous. Does that sound ridiculous to you? Please comment. Please start to comment under my videos.
Maybe they didn't do a good job and they were concerned. Maybe they were misled.
Maybe. Those aren't facts.
In their judgment. Whatever. Doesn't matter. We all make mistakes. We all judge people before we really know the full story.
Like when I called your mom and you started harassing, cussing at me. What you didn't realize was that I had talked to your mom plenty of times on the phone before that. And everybody know, how do you think I had her number? I didn't look it up. I got her number to this day. But Darlie Key posted that she wished all the fighting would stop between the supporters and non-supporters because it's getting out of hand. This is years ago. So I called to set that up. I called Darlie Key's phone as a non-supporter, and Denell intercepted that call. She wouldn't let Darlie Key have the phone. If she wouldn't have been there and took that, Darlie would have talked to me. Darlie Key. Yeah, because I wanted to set up a thing where we just don't fight anymore. And Denell intercepted that call and made it worse. It was horrible. Now I'm ashamed of what I said to her. Even though she was pissing me off, calling me mentally ill, and we don't know the case, and we don't know. She told me, you don't know the case. You don't know anything. You're mentally ill. She said, you need to just stop. That's what she's saying. She just kept on insulting me. And I literally said, I'll stop when they execute that bitch to her. And I shouldn't have said that. But, that's what mentally ill people do. They just kind of fly off the cuff and say stupid stuff that they shouldn't say. So her even talking to me at this point, I don't think she remembers the whole conversation. When we were speaking about it, she said she don't remember. I remember it because I'm ashamed of it. I should have just hung up and tried to call her again later. Really, because Darlie Key would have tried it to talk to me.
It's human nature to judge people. It is what it is. Anyways, back to the story. I joined this group They did eventually approve it, actually pretty quickly.
You joined this group, right? You knew what the rules were before you went in because they're presented. And you said, nope, I'm not going to follow the rules. Not me. Nope, I don't have to follow your rules.
Of course. And then I'm notified that in order for me to participate in this group, first they welcome me, which I said,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
hello, hey, how is everybody? Very cordial. I didn't really know exactly what was going to come at me. The next thing is you read the rules of the group when you joined. So now you have to unblock all those admins.
I'm not going to conform to the rules. But we're haters, right? I'm not conforming to the rules.
I will never unblock a few of them.
And no, I'm Denell, and I won't listen to your rules. The rules are for everybody.
Because of their temperament and the way they came at me and their refusal to see anything other than what they've committed.
What is your refusal? What have you committed your life to? Innocence. You have flat said you refuse to speak to anybody who doesn't see it your way. And now you're turning around on us.
Their life too. I'm not doing it because
We have not, and I repeat, committed our life. Look how maximizing that is. My whole life. Daddy, can you fix me a sandwich? I'm hungry. Hang on, I'm doing something with Darlie. Daddy, can we go play ball? No, hold on, I'm doing something with Darlie. I can't come into work today because I'm doing something with Darlie's case. Committed their life. Look how maximizing it is. Maximized. Committed our lives to that.
it's not good for them and it's not good for me, and they pull out really bad things in me, and I don't need...
We don't pull out anything in you that hasn't already been there. We don't pull out anything in you that hasn't been in there. October 1996, Plano, Texas. Domestic violence at Darlie Key's home. Who was involved in that? I do have a question for you as far as that goes. And this is something that I know. How come your sister Dana has never been to visit Darlie? How come your sister Dana hasn't even wrote to her in more than 20 years? Could your sister Dana be one of those in the family that feels like Darlie is guilty, but isn't going to publicly say so? What was that domestic violence fight about? Shortly after the trial, where Darren had to separate Dana and her mother. What was that about? Can you talk about that? Because I know how some things went in my family when my son was charged, and I felt like he was guilty, and I expressed it. My family didn't like it very much. They still don't like it. So what happened there that day? Can you explain that?
To show that side of me to the world, because that's not who I am. Just because somebody makes me angry and pushes my buttons, and I have a...
What pushes your buttons, Denell? Because you can't... What pushes your buttons is the truth. You can't take something that one of us have said about the case and show it to be a lie. You can't do that. We can, with you.
A long known history of how these people have treated my family, specifically my mom and my sister.
Your mom and your sister, okay? Let me tell you something. Your mother has been very nasty to a lot of us. A lot of us. She called the Kaufman County Police Department because she got shitty with me, and I got shitty back with her, and she ran down there and told them I was harassing her, and I did a video about that while she was still sitting in there waiting. The cop mistook me for a Darlie supporter. I said, look, these Darlie supporters are just coming after blah, blah. He goes, Darlie Routier? He thought I was a supporter. He goes, what in the blue hell? He said, now you sound crazy. because he thought I was a Darlie supporter. But at any rate, they saw that I wasn't harassing her, that we were arguing, and there was nothing. After she called me a fat, sweaty bag of crap and all that, and I went back at her, and not even as harshly, she runs to the police and tells them I'm harassing her. The police in Texas who failed Darlie and didn't do their jobs right, and they're all insane and inept. Yeah, she ran right to them.
I cannot get past that. And something else I want to say is, once a snake, always a snake. There's a story about a little girl that goes walking up the trail, and it's a Russian folklore, I think. And there's a snake laying in the trail, and it's too cold to move. So the snake...
Bitch, you knew I was a snake. I know this story.
Says, little girl, please pick me up and warm me up. Put me in your jacket, and I'll repay you by being kind to you. And so the little girl picks up this almost frozen snake and places it inside her jacket and continues on her trail. And as she's walking down this trail, she feels the snake to begin to thaw and warm. And you know what snakes are. I mean, they're snakes. And as they warm up, they start to move again. So this snake starts to get active inside her jacket, and it slithers its little head outside the cuff of her jacket and bites her in the neck. And the girl...
Now, wait a minute. Was it a superficial bite? Was it a deep penetrating bite? Was it a directional bite? Was there lots of bleeding? I want to know. Was the snake bite superficial?
Drops the snake and grasps her neck and says, "What did you do that for?" And the snake said, "You knew what I was when you picked me up."
Yep. And I was warned about how you would behave if I started speaking to you, and I didn't believe it. And by God, you have said that I have insulted you several times. And these conversations are going to be posted. You said that I have insulted you several times, and I had insulted you one time. Not even once.
I'm just who I am. I will not change. So that being said, there's a few snakes in that group.
There's a few snakes. We won't change because you can't convince us. It's up to you to convince us.
And I just have no business being in that group. And I didn't know. It was very misleading. Turns out the entire admin panel is all non-supporters. There may have been one supporter in there. One.
Well, the Darlie Case for Concern group, I had supporters in there. Stephanie Hopk, I had all of them. I held all of my subs to that group at bay and said, no, we're going to open this up for supporters. And every single one of them said, we're being attacked, ran off. And none of them were. None of them were being attacked. We practiced biting our tongues for a while. And they left. All of them. Just like ISU for Darlie on Facebook. That was a strong group for the innocence of Darlie, and they were going to prove it and everything else. They all left. And they wouldn't let none of us in there. They left. And it was a support group. They took a look at the case. And they said, oops. And there was never a non-supporter in that group. Never. Go look at ISU for Darlie Routier. Look at that ghost town. They left on their own.
And it had like 5,000 people in that group. Very few people were actually active. It's the same people in all the hater groups, like a core of them.
Okay, so the free Darlie groups that are on Facebook and the outside the secret groups, is that all the same people that go gather together to talk about things the same way? The free Darlie groups are the same way. They're full of the same different people. Now, the Justice for Devin or Damon group is run by Pam, and she runs a tight ship over there. She doesn't want a whole lot of bickering and stuff over there. So there's other groups where we can do that, but Pam doesn't allow it.
That continuously verbally attack anything I do or say.
We don't verbally attack anything you do or say. Verbal attack would be saying that people have committed their lives, calling them haters. That's a verbal attack.
Because I'm related to Darlie.
No, we don't care that you're related to Darlie. And as a matter of fact, you get a little more props from us because you're related to Devin and Damon, and we know that they loved you. You get a little more leniency. No, it's not because you're related to Darlie. It's because you're out here talking shit.
Such a shame. Anyways.
Has any non-supporter ever said to you, I don't like you because you're related to Darlie? Has anyone ever said that to you? You're trying to tell us why we do things we do?
So we bicker back and forth, and, you know, it's an argument, and I don't like to argue. I don't want to argue the case. If you're set on...
You can't argue the case. I don't want to argue the case. I just want to tell you that she's innocent and give you my reasons why, and I don't want to hear what you have to say about it. Sounds about right.
Your ways, there's no reason for me to talk to you.
There's plenty of reason for you to talk to people who don't believe that Darlie is innocent. Because you're standing for her.
I'm not going to change your mind, and you're not going to change mine, so this is...
But here's the thing. You could change our mind. Just like the evidence was presented to us that she's guilty. Evidence could be presented to us that she's innocent, and we will make our own decision. I also support people who've been, wrongfully convicted. I've done that. Hannah Overton, David Cam.
This frivolous. It's ridiculous. So I'm not going to unadd or unblock any admin.
I'm not going to follow the rules. Not going to do it. I don't want to hear the truth.
Continue just like I was. They eventually mute me. Then they unmute me so that they can ask me a question because they can't stand it.
You said they eventually mute you, but you're still a member in our Darlie a case for concern, and you've muted yourself. You don't talk in there anymore. You don't come in there with that bullshit.
So they unmute me. They ask me a question. I give them my full response. Multiple people come at me. Multiple people bring different topics up whenever I have a good point. They can't explain the unidentified fingerprint. They keep going back to, we know it's Darlie's, but if it's not Darlie's, it means nothing. Okay. I'm just going to leave that right there then. Eventually, I call one of them out on being a bully and say, you won't take me out of this group because then you can't bully me. And you're getting way too much enjoyment out of that. Well, that must have pushed a button because guess who got removed from the group?
Well, you don't tell people that you're not going to take them out of their group. I mean, you don't say, you're not going to take me out of here, because then they'll take you out of here. That's common sense.
Thank you. That is what I needed. I don't need to see what you guys think of me. It's not good for me.
We don't think of you as anything but a person who is desperately and detrimentally defending Darlie. We know that behind that defense, there's a person there. You know, there's a person there. We know that too.
It's not good for anybody. You guys can have your opinion. It is not my business what other people think of me.
It is your business what people think of Darlie, since you're going to do this.
If you're a supporter, I appreciate you being a supporter.
If you're not a supporter, I don't like you.
I appreciate all the kind words. It was brought to my attention in that group that they think I'm making Darlie look more guilty.
You are making Darlie look more guilty. Because if you could come with these things that aren't true and weren't said and all that, and you're trying to convince people this and this and that, these people that you're talking to have the ability to go look at what you're saying and find out that it's not correct. You're making Darlie look more guilty because you keep getting tripped up on things easily. You know, there's certain things that I'm not going to discuss it. I'm not going to discuss it. You can't do that.
I'm not quite sure how that's the case, and I feel more like they dislike the fact that I'm pointing to holes in the case, and they don't like the idea that Darlie could possibly be innocent.
You have to show us where Darlie could possibly be innocent. I have an open mind. If you give me evidence that is substantial, that shows her innocence, I won't care what the nons think. If I say, look, she's innocent, we were wrong. I wouldn't care. If they don't want to be my friend, if something like that happens afterwards, well, that's on them.
But nonetheless, if I say something that makes you guys feel like Darlie appears more guilty because of something I said, just let me know.
There's no supporter that's going to pop up there and say, look, I support Darlie, but you're wrong, and this makes her look good. They're not going to do that. Just like if there's somebody in your family who really thinks she's guilty, they're not going to say that in public. They might say it behind the scenes, though, and it might turn into a huge domestic violence at Darlie Key's house. Right?
We can clarify it real fast, because nothing that I see in this case makes Darlie look guilty. Nothing.
Of course not.
Now, I have the benefit of knowing her character. I know who she was, but it is... I'm a decent judge of character. And I know Darlie. I knew Darlie for 13 years before this happened. And she was not the person that they painted. She was...
Neither was Ted Bundy.
Quite the opposite. So I have that benefit.
Neither was Chris Watts.
That I know who she was and what she stood for. And most of the world does not. And that's a very sad thing. But regardless...
Oh, but most of the world does know.
I just wanted to jump on here and say that. If you're in
one of those groups and you watch quietly cheering me on, thanks.
I do appreciate the support, even if it...
Or if you're in the Justice for Devin and Damon group and you quietly watch and take everything and report it to Denell, thank you. We know. We don't care. We're not going to say anything in a private group that we wouldn't say in public. We don't care. We know that she sees all the groups. We know this.
It is silent. If you're not in one of those groups, be very careful. They are hate groups, they are bullies, and they will attack anybody that does not agree with their opinions. And I am sure several of you can vouch for that on here.
If someone comes in there and says, well, I don't agree with your opinions, they're not going to get attacked for that. The next question is going to be, well, tell us why. And they'll come up with something that isn't correct, and then we correct it nicely. That's when the insults start on their end, and we're going to show that.
The Justice group and the, I can't remember the other group, but be careful. It's dangerous out there.
It's only dangerous if you walk in with bullshit. And it's not even dangerous then. Nobody's going to reach through the screen and do anything to you. The lies are very dangerous.